All right, awesome. Thank you for pressing record. I think this is us. Okay. So we're going to talk today about, so I think I titled this what you need to know about opportunities with Pardot, a little tongue in cheek, but I mean, opportunities are definitely a part of our life, right? So as marketers, we're measured on our opportunities, we're measured on KPIs. Sorry, I didn't mean to have subtitles. Okay, that was new. I didn't know Zoom did subtitles. That was cool. So yeah, so we're measured on KPIs, key performance indicators and everything. And so Marcos and Michelle and I were trying to come up with like, oh, what do we talk about? And I think we've definitely seen questions over time about like, how do you use opportunities with Pardot? What can you do? What can't you do? So I thought, you know, a good presentation on those topics are, what can you do? What can't you do? How do you pull it off in Pardot? What can you do in Salesforce to make it more useful? That kind of thing. And then we have slides, and you'll see links throughout this, and I'll distribute the slide decks afterwards. No worries about that. I have a final slide that's like helpful links. So when you get the follow-up email about here's the recording, just hit that link, and it'll have a spot to download the PDF also for the slides. So don't try and scramble to like visit the URLs. We'll definitely distribute the slides later. So yeah, I mean, opportunities to me have always seemed like, as a marketer, my baby days of marketing, opportunities always seemed like something sales cares about, not really marketing. And I do feel like Salesforce has become more useful for marketing teams recently, like within the last 4 years, 3 years, like a fairly short period of time, honestly. And I've been using Pardot since 2011, and I don't feel like at the time, marketing really had a lot going for it in Salesforce. And so as a result, marketing has like shared a login to Salesforce because there wasn't much in Salesforce for us to really there to be any justification for giving marketing an expensive license. But now, you know, more and more of what marketing does is measured in Salesforce, and that's a good thing, I think. And I think the side effect is that, like, yes, sales teams are getting you know, independent logins to Salesforce. Like I have my own, yay, I don't have to share with the whole marketing team, which is great. And so I think, you know, you'll see more and more of that more and more marketers are adopting Salesforce for reporting. And, you know, KPIs, like I said, key performance indicators. So we're usually measured against how many opportunities we influence with sales. But other statistics too, like MQLs, SQLs, SQOs, and these acronyms mean different things to different companies. I worked as a consultant, I worked with a company who used like the, they had some like 7 or 8 different like funnel stages. And it was super, super hard for me to keep track of like who had what funnel stage. And honestly, it's sometimes you complicate it more than it is, but like, as marketers, we know we have like website visitors, and we can measure those in Google Analytics. And then we have the people who are MQLs, marketing qualified. And usually in most companies, those are like anybody who fills out a form, but in reality, it should be the people who are most qualified for handoff to sales. So if you're doing your grading and scoring, it's, you know, people who have like a B grade or better, or if you're measuring in like a 1 through 10, maybe it's like a 6 or better, and those are MQL, and those are based on things like, you know, their profile being like the right job title, the right departments, their companies in the right industry, that kind of thing. So marketing qualified, maybe you have a goal of like 100 per quarter. Maybe your number is much higher. Maybe it's like 500 per quarter, something like that. And then SQLs are, so now we've turned these MQLs over to sales, and sales qualified leads are, sales has said, yes, I am accepting this lead as pursuing this lead. Because of those 100 per quarter, and I'm just going to say 100 just for nice round numbers, you know, maybe 3/4 of them, maybe 75% of them are junk, because maybe they're disqualified for whatever reason, not having budget, maybe they're not the right persona, maybe they're not the right profile, maybe any number of things. So maybe your target number of SQLs as your goals are smaller. Maybe it's like 25 per quarter. And again, just using numbers for ease. And then of those SQLs, your SQOs, sales qualified opportunities, are, okay, yes, we're going to make these a contact and also create an opportunity off of them. And maybe, you know, marketing should be generating or influencing 10 of those a quarter, you know, multiply by a factor of 10 or 100 or whatever your number are. And then maybe, you know, of closed won opportunities, it's an even smaller number. Maybe it's like 5 or 2 or something like that. So there's the funnel shape, right? You have like this many people at the top, it's much bigger, and it slowly goes down and down, down in a funnel shape. So we're all kind of measured in similar things, even if they're not called the same things from company to company. And really the problem has been like, how do you even measure this stuff? Well, you know, it comes down to getting the data into Salesforce. So we know that opportunities are created in Salesforce. Now we need to measure that marketing has made touches on these people who are qualified for sales to follow up with them. And how we do that is we track, for example, somebody completed a Pardot form, or that they were part of a nurture program and that they clicked links in the emails. And so as marketers, marketing operations people, marketing automation people, every time you put out a Pardot asset, you want to have completion actions of add the Salesforce campaign name with status responded. Those responded statuses could be customized per campaign. So this one where I'm showing that's like a get a demo, somebody filled out a website form for get a demo, I just use the default responded status. It could be that the responded status is equivalent to submitted form, or you can personalize, like for a webinar, that it's that they registered or that they attended or that they viewed it on demand. You can customize your statuses. What matters is in the back end of the Salesforce campaign, you check the box that said this is a responded status. The default statuses in campaigns are usually sent. So like this pool of people were sent the campaign, and then this smaller pool of people responded to the campaign. We're measuring the people who responded. And then, you know, like I said, you want to put them on all of your Pardot assets. So, you know, your Pardot forms, of course, but also files that you upload to Pardot, a PDF or something that's a downloadable infographic or a white paper. You can put, if somebody's cookied, when they hit that link for the file, they can have completion actions applied to them the same way. Custom redirects are kind of iffy, honestly, not my favorite tool in Pardot, but, you know, create them. But absolutely, any nurture programs you're running in Engagement Studio, create a pattern of like, okay, send email. Next step is add to Salesforce campaign with status sent. And then you have a green step that's measuring, did they click the link? And on the yes path, because the green steps that are listening create a yes/no division. On the yes path, you're going to put add the Salesforce campaign with status responded or clicked email or whatever your responded status is. So that's how you automate. Like, yes, they clicked the link and now I'm reporting on it. So now you have your marketing touches measured as campaign members in Salesforce. And the awesome thing is that, you know, people are going to be members of many, many, many different campaigns. So from the date they were created as a lead to the time that they were, you know, turned into a contact, to the time that the contact had an opportunity opened, those are all the marketing touches that happened before a deal opened. From the time the deal is open to the time the deal is closed, those are the things that influence the deal to close and potentially close faster. You know, so you can show marketing's influence on these things with some reports. And what are those reports? So out of the box, so the reports that you choose are hard to say, you know, this is absolutely how you should do it. The company I work for, I'm going to plug that we use a tool called Full Circle Insights, and I really very much like it. It's pretty low cost for what you get out of it, but what you get out of it is some customized campaign influence models. Now, you don't have budget for it, no worries. Out of the box as a Pardot customer, you get these 3, they're called customizable campaign influence report types. And so you have to enable customizable campaign influence. And I've got some links at the end in my help slide that are like, here's where you go, here's a PDF, how to enable it. Sercante has also posted some blog posts about, you know, how to customize it, things you should know about it. I didn't include those links, but Marcos, if you want to throw those in the chat, if you know them, go for it. I know they're out there and I just didn't Google them.
No worries. Thank you for that plug. But could you repeat the tool that you use? Some people may be interested, so I like to put it on the chat.
It was called Full Circle Insights, and they do a lot. So they're a Salesforce. They're not a consulting company, but they have, for example, customizable campaign models. But they also have like a lead to account matching tool and some other things. The one my company uses is the campaign influence models. It's really pretty awesome. That's like a whole managed package that it installs like custom fields and custom campaign member fields. I'm not showing you that tool because this isn't really a plug for that tool, but I was very impressed with it, seeing it. But out of the box, you do get these that come from Salesforce and Pardot, and specifically Pardot customers get these customizable campaign influence ones. And those out of the box reports give you first touch, last touch, and even touch. So what is the first touch that brought them into your database? What is the last touch that they had? And I think I have a slide. Oh, here we go. So this is very tiny printing, but this is the definitions of the, so on the first touch model, 100% of the influence and revenue earned goes to the first campaign a prospect touches. So what was the thing that brought them into your database? And even distribution is, so if you have, like if a prospect touches like 4 campaigns, then each campaign is going to get 25% of the attribution. So so if they have like 10 campaigns, then each campaign is going to get 10% of the attribution. And then a last touch model is 100% of the influence and revenue earned to the last campaign a prospect touches before a deal is closed. So first touch is the first one that they ever came to you with, and it might be a social campaign, or it might be, so whichever campaign they were added to where they first had that responded status in a campaign, and then, you know, maybe 2 years later, they actually have an opportunity opened and they, you know, took 6 months to close the deal. Like, can we really say that that first touch was the source of the campaign? I mean, it's what brought them to your database. You can customize these customizable campaign influence things. Out of the box, they don't have a look back period, but you can customize that. So if your deal cycle is like 9 months, so it takes 9 months from the time an opportunity is open to actually closing one, you might want to make your look back period be 18 months. That's the generally accepted like industry wisdom. But you can customize that to be whatever you want. But out of the box, it's going to be all time. So maybe, like I said, their first touch ever was like a webinar they attended 5 years ago. Do you really trust that it has relevance to an opportunity that closes today? Maybe, maybe not, but like out of the box, that's what these campaign models are saying with the first touch attribution. And then last touch again is the one that they touched before the deal closed. So maybe they did that webinar 5 years ago, but just yesterday they downloaded a white paper, and then today the deal was marked closed won. So last touch would give 100% of the attribution to the last thing they did before the deal was closed. That would be that white paper they did yesterday. Is that really true? Hard to say. And then the even distribution model is like everything in that look back period. So everything from 5 years ago to today when the deal closed is given equal weight. So there's 100% of influence and revenue to share around. If they've touched 100 things, each one gets 1%. If they've touched 10 things, each one gets 10%, et cetera. And then you can create a custom model. That's where you need to get really, so there are, and if anybody knows Steven Stouffer in the Kardashian community, he's definitely done presentations on this, but there are like different models that are like, this is a flat model basically, and even touches a flat model. There are other models that give like a W shape. So if you have your look back period, you're giving heavier weight to the first touch, the last touch, and also the touch in the middle, and somewhat lesser weight to the things that appear in between those touches. And then there are other touches that are U-shaped, where you give more weight to the first and the last and lesser weight to what in the middle, but still you give some weight to them. So you have to have a more customizable tool to create those touches, and that's where you can create those models with customizable campaign influence, but I have no idea how you go about doing it. That's where you need to get like an AI person or somebody who's like a business intelligence, I'm saying the wrong things, but somebody who's much smarter than I am. So anyway, so customizable campaign influence are some of the reports that you can create right out of Salesforce and out of Pardot. As Pardot customers, they should be included with your package. So definitely look into them. They're not super intuitive to enable, but again, on my help slide at the very end, I've got some documents that say, this is how you turn them on and everything. So that's all well and good. We know kind of that, the opportunity open date, the opportunity close date, those come into, they matter a great deal when it comes to, how is marketing being given credit for opportunities, like was the opportunity, created this date? Did the campaign touch happen before the created date? Did the campaign touch happen after the created date? All of those things are important. And the way Pardot is able, I'm going to go back one slide. The way Pardot is able to, and Salesforce, you're able to create these attributions is that, okay, as a marketer, you have your Pardot form saying add to Salesforce campaign with status responded. And then in turn, your sales team is creating opportunities and they are putting those people, those contacts, onto the opportunity in the contact role. That's how Pardot and Salesforce do the magic of marrying campaign members to opportunities and assigning influence. So it's attached through the person record, which is all well and good, but what does this mean for us as marketers in the day-to-day? I mean, how do we even go about using opportunities in Pardot? So one thing that's really interesting is that opportunities are synced to Pardot already. So in a world where Pardot, syncs to leads, syncs to contacts, syncs to accounts in a limited way, and syncs to campaigns in a limited way, it also syncs to opportunities in a limited way. So if you go into your Pardot account, and here I'm showing Lightning, but if you're using Classic, it's very similar. So you go into the account settings, and then you find object and field configuration, and then you want to choose the opportunity fields. One thing you'll notice here that's different from the other things that you see in Pardot is if you go to edit the lead fields or the prospect fields in Pardot, Pardot comes with default fields and you can change them around on the lead and contact on the prospect. You can't do that on opportunities. You only can manipulate the custom fields. And that's because the default fields are already mapped. And here at the bottom, I have a link. And again, I'm going to distribute these slides so you can go find them. But there you can see how the opportunity default fields, which ones are included in Pardot. And then let's say that you have custom fields that you want to bring into Pardot. You just create, custom fields the same way you've made custom fields for prospects or accounts or anybody else. And then what's really interesting about opportunities in Pardot is kind of where you can use them. So you're pretty much limited to using opportunity fields on dynamic lists and in automation rules. And the interface is very much the same. So here I'm showing a dynamic list where the first thing you need to do is choose from the list. You're not going to choose prospect default field, prospect custom field. You're actually going to choose the option prospect opportunity. And then that's going to make this weird little rule grouping thing that you see on screen here. You can see, and I hope you can see my mouse moving around, but you can see this line down here where it says add new rule, add new group. That would be like a whole nother rule group. If you were trying to group fields together and you add them in rule groups, same idea here with opportunities. Pardot's creating this interesting rule group. So it's really important to pay attention to how you're grouping your fields when it comes to opportunities. So when you choose prospect opportunity, then you have to choose from the next boxes, match prospects related with opportunities to opportunity. I have no idea why it says this way. I think it's some sort of computer programming. It makes sense to them in SQL language, but I don't speak that tool. So speak that language, I don't really know. And then when you go to add your lines of criteria, make sure you hit the add new rule inside the rule group that it made you. Don't hit the one lower down, right? So that's where my arrow is pointing to make sure that you're hitting the right one. And the reason that's important is it's keeping all of your criteria grouped inside the same rule group so that you're matching to a single opportunity. So here I'm looking at two default fields. I'm looking for prospect opportunity default field stage contains the word open, And also the default field created is less than 30 days ago. So this is a good example where you can see the grouping. Here I've zoomed out and I've done not quite the same thing, because the first rule grouping that it created for me shows me stage contains open. The second rule grouping, and notice there's an or in between there. The second rule grouping is that it was created less than 30 days ago. Those are two entirely different buckets of prospects matching campaigns. And that's important, because if you do something like this, you're going to end up with people who don't have the opportunities that you had in mind. And that's problematic. So one of the things that I've done with a dynamic list is I've made a dynamic list of opportunities, closed won, any time frame. So where a custom field says the name of one of our products. So I can say, these are the people who have signed contracts with us to buy this product. But if you put those on two different buckets like this, now you're pulling a list of everybody who has ever closed won anything, not that specific product, plus the people who did that specific product who are already included in the first batch. But your list of people who bought the product might be 100. Your list of everybody who's ever closed won anything might be 70,000. You know, it's very different buckets of people. So you want to make sure you're doing it properly when you build your dynamic lists and automation rules. And so you can, so let's say you're looking at the correct way of building this, where you're doing, you know, stage contains open and the opportunity created date is less than 30 days ago. You can filter further. So you can use those additional light items below to say, now, okay, I created this bucket of people who are on opportunities. And the important thing that I might have glossed over is that dynamic lists and automation rules built this way only grab the people who are named in the contact roles on the opportunity. So I said early on that piece is key for getting attribution. But with Pardot, you're only able to pull lists of the people named on the opportunity in the contact role. Any contact role, but they must be named in the contact role. And so let's say I have John Smith, who's the VP of marketing and he's named on this thing. I actually want to pull his assistant. Unless his assistant is named on the opportunity, I'm not able to pull his assistant because she wouldn't match this criteria, right? Because she's not named in a contact role on the opportunity. But coming back to this example where I said I'm going to look for, you know, opportunities that are still open and they're less than 30 days old. These are, I can then say, but I want to only send this email to people located in Ontario, Canada. So because I put an and in between, now I can also pull down to like the product custom field, Canadian provinces, Ontario. Now you might have your state stored in the default field. That's fine. Just this org that I'm working with, I'm like data correcting using a custom field. But so you can pick and choose of like, here's my big bucket of people who match the opportunity, and here's specific things about those prospects. And I'm going to only return people who are in this pool of opportunities. The way that works is it has that and, you know, it's the match all criteria. It's the and in between the line items. So make sure you're building your rules right. Because again, you might have it set to be an or, and it might be, you know, this bucket of people who made an opportunity, but then your list of people who live in Ontario is like 500 more people than have ever, you know, closed won an opportunity or created an opportunity, whatever you're doing. So when you run your dynamic lists or you run the preview of your automation rule and the numbers seem like insanely off, check your ands and ors in your buckets here. So here's where I thought I put this slide earlier, but yes, so this is what I was saying, that the important tip to know is that as you build these dynamic lists and automation rules, it will only see the people, the prospects who are put into the contact role on the opportunity. So here I've only got one person on this opportunity, Jack Rogers. I couldn't say, but like, oh, but I want to send a reminder to Jack Rogers' assistant because the assistant's not on this opportunity. I don't know that she's related to Jack in any way, except that they're at the same company. So what is fun is, you know, you can easily pull these lists in Pardot, dynamic lists or automation rules, And you can say like, these are your decision makers, right? These are like the most important people. So you can very easily pull lists of the people who have actually signed contracts or have open contracts with you. Closed lost also, anybody who has an open opportunity, you can pull them into these very important lists. What you can't do out of the box is pull, for example, Acme or this company on screen, Burlington Textiles Corp of America. I can't pull every contact at Burlington simply because there's an open opportunity. There are ways that you can use special fields on the account to do a limited version of that. And I'll show you that. I've got a slide near the end for that. So now that we know that we can build dynamic lists and we can build automation rules, what can we even do with them? Well, it's really just, about being as creative as you can possibly be. So you've got dynamic lists, now use them everywhere. So, you're going to use them in Engagement Studio. Say I'm going to nurture people who have an open opportunity or who have won an opportunity. So maybe like when an opportunity goes closed won, I'm going to send emails that say like, welcome to the family or something like that. But really common ones are, sales wants us to help them close deals faster. So when an opportunity is created, they want us to send emails signed from the salesperson that say like, hey, is there any questions about this outstanding opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. So you can definitely automate that with dynamic lists and such in Pardot. So, you can also use them to cross-sell. So let's say you have somebody who signed a contract 2 years ago and doesn't have anything newer than that. You can detect that with some creative making of some dynamic lists, and you can put them through a nurture. Like, hey, a couple of years ago, you bought this product. Did you know we have these new features? Do you want to talk about an upgrade? Cool, nurture programs. You can use the same lists for recipient lists and also suppression lists. So Pardot kind of throws people who are more familiar with other marketing automation platforms. Some of those platforms, like you have to specify a list can only be used this way. Pardot kind of throws those people for a loop because you can use a list like anywhere across Pardot. So if you make a dynamic list that says, here's all of my open opportunities for product A, I can use that as a recipient list in one place, but I can use that exact same list as a suppression list in another place. So, I can take that same list of open opportunities and I can say, now suppress it from sending my pre-MQL stage marketing emails to this person. So if they have an open opportunity, but they come along and they download something, they would normally be put into my pre-MQL nurture. But because they have an open opportunity, I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put them as a suppression list on that pre-MQL nurture. Be as creative as you possibly can be. But yeah, I mean, like if you have, a product line, 5 different products, and you have a different nurture for each product, you want to suppress people who have closed won opportunities on that product from getting, hey, let me sell you this thing nurtures, like it makes you look kind of silly that like you don't know anything about it and it's all automated and it's not human. So you want to be kind of careful about what you're doing, but use the technology, to its fullest and make yourself look good. You can also do, one thing that I like doing for salespeople is a closed lost nurture. So you lost a deal to a competitor, let's say. Just send some very like 1-line, 2-line nurture emails at like day 60, day 120, just a couple times over the next year going like, hey, just checking in, how's it going with your, implementation, happy to talk to you if you have any concerns and things aren't working out for you. That's a very low key, low effort email. Format it to look like it's coming out of their normal email account, not like it's a marketing email with flashy HTML or anything. And people think those are real emails. And you can really convert people who, closed one because they went to competitor. Now the competitor never really quite got off the ground, but they still need this project, or the competitor project is going to hell. It's not working out. They're, dumping the competitor and they want to come back to you. Like you're stayed top of mind with these people. So use these lists, get creative, as creative as you can possibly be. Like you can probably create the rule and the dynamic list in Pardot to make your nurture dreams come true. So I mostly have focused on making dynamic lists. And I said dynamic lists and automation rules. The criteria for setting them up are the same, but automation rules, of course, differ from the dynamic lists in that you can apply actions to them. And so a common reason to make an automation rule versus a dynamic list is when people no longer meet the criteria of a dynamic list, they drop off of that list. So you've built a dynamic list of people who have an open opportunity. When that opportunity moves to the next stage, maybe that stage is prospecting. Technically it's open, but you didn't add open to your line item, so they fall off the list. What if you wanted them to enter a nurture program and complete the nurture program all the way through? If you use your recipient list, a dynamic list is your recipient list of the nurture program. When their stage changes, they fall off the dynamic list, they fall out of the nurture program. So the way around that is you might create an automation rule with the same criteria of open opportunity within the last 60 days, et cetera. But now your action is add prospect to list, and you're choosing a static list. With a static list, they're going to stay on it even if their criteria changes. Their stage changes from open to prospecting. Well, unless you create another automation rule or you manually remove them from that list, they're going to continue going down the program because they're still on that static list. You never automated any change. So, pick and choose what's your best way to go about getting people on lists. Maybe you also want to apply a tag to them when they reach a certain stage. Maybe you want to date stamp a field when they hit a certain stage. Those are all reasons, actions that you want to do. Those are all reasons to create an automation rule instead of a dynamic list.
Before we continue here,
Yep.
we had a question in the chat from Monica, which I think everybody, including us, has asked themselves at some point. The question is, can you add a filter for a specific contact role? So in her scenario, she works specifically in nonprofits. And so they will have, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, right? And so if she wants to target specific contact roles, she was wondering if she's able to do that.
So that is a good question. And I'm actually going to log into my demo org and see if I can do that or not. I don't know off the top of my head. But at the very least, your Salesforce admin should be able to help you automate something that is related to that. So if I look at, let's see, prospects, and I go make a dynamic list.
Yeah, I was going to say by default, I don't think it's available. You might have to do something custom.
Yeah. So if I look at, here's my fake list. I'm in a demo org, so I have nothing that's real, right? So, but if I'm going to make this and I look at prospect opportunity default field, yeah, none of these say to me contact role. But if I go to the Pardot settings and look at object and field configuration, opportunity fields, and I want to add a custom field, I don't know. I don't see it saying contact role here. So what you may need to have happen is have your Salesforce admin help you with that. There should be a way they can come up with when they're added to an opportunity in a certain role, do something with them. I don't know what that something will be. I do think it's a good question, but I don't have a solution off the top of my head.
Could you check your account settings tab real quick?
The account settings tab?
Yeah, just to see what tier they give you. Okay,
I'm on advanced, yeah. Oh, so it might be in...
No, so I've seen this once. It's under, I think, custom objects.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So you do need to be, unfortunately, on the advanced or higher, or like Laura said, that's so there's a contact role at the account. I don't think that's it.
Account contact role. I think it might be opportunity contact role.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't see it. User role. That doesn't look right either.
No, let's see.
I think you're right, Marcos. I think
there it is.
Contract.
Yeah,
it might be contact role.
Let's see. It's one of these.
Click into this.
Yeah.
Configure fields. role and we turn it on.
Sure.
So like literally this is as easy as when you have custom objects, this is as easily as it is. You
Yeah.
get to filter, you know, what's on, what's there. And then if we go look at segmentation rules again, oops, sorry, segmentation lists, not rules. Segmentation rules can do stuff like adds to Salesforce campaign, but I don't use them very often. So now it wouldn't appear in this box, but you would be able to put it here in a separate object, maybe prospect custom object, probably related with opportunities to this, and then role is, and then you have to know what it is. Like even though it said it was a drop down in the previous screen. So this is worth looking at, but I don't know if this is the solution or not. But I feel like it's related. But again, your problem is that you're creating like two separate things. So they might have this appropriate role on one opportunity and not on this other opportunity. So you have to be really careful when you're building in these role groups like this and do some testing to make sure it's the right people.
Yeah, and I've toyed with this once for one specific client, and we did something like this, but what they,
it's been so long, there's been so many
well,
that kind of blend together.
But to Monica's point, right, like this was it was a B2B company. However, they had a segment of their organization that works similar to nonprofits where, like, you know, you have constituents, right? So for them, what they did was, it was people on the account, right? So this is slightly different than the contact role at the opportunity, but at the account. And they wanted to see who was, like, the contact role would be captain, right? So you're the captain of this particular ship, but you may be listed on another account as like the second in command or advisor or something like that. And they wanted to do that. So again, to, let's see, what was her name? Rachel, to your point, contact rows and the related list associated with that can be on different objects, and they're different relationships. But at least for the one at the account level, we solved it doing something like this. I don't remember the specifics. So I would suspect there would be a junction object for the opportunity contact row. We just have to play a little bit more with it to get it. So
and so it is definitely like, oh, I can only add one custom object at a time in my demo org. You've reached your limit of one.
So I guess the main thing to call out is that you need to be an advanced tier user of Pardot or higher in order for you to be able to do
so
this.
These are all, and this is a demo org that really doesn't have, I haven't customized it for anything significant. So these might well be standard objects in Salesforce, but Pardot considers them custom objects. So like out of the box, Pardot only syncs with the very basic stuff: lead, contact, account, campaign member, but only really their status. It doesn't sync with any custom fields, and it syncs with opportunities, but obviously not always at the level that we want. Like we can see that they are contact roles, but we don't know which one.
Could I interject here again? Sorry. So another thing that you could do that, you know, unfortunately it wouldn't be like, oh, this just happened and now we're going to go ahead and do it, but you could do it once a week, is you can run a report. Once a week, like on Fridays or Mondays or whatever you do. And then you just add them to a Salesforce campaign. And then you build a dynamic list based on Salesforce campaign, and you would know that you included only the roles that you actually wanted to include. And so in that case, you know, you can make them all member status of sent or something that won't affect your campaign influence models or reports that Laura talked about earlier. So that's like, if you had no help in your organization, that's another way you could do it. And an immediate way could be maybe doing a flow or something where like this is doing it for you on a batch basis. But
Right.
you would probably, unless you're comfortable with flows, you would probably need Salesforce admin support to be able to do that. But if we are able to find this solution, maybe worth a good blog post soon, Laura.
I think
To
so.
this.
I think because it's definitely a request I've had before, and I
Yeah.
can't remember. It's been so long, I can't remember the solution. But it's absolutely a request I've heard before. And it's kind of surprising that it's not as simple as it just being there. So it could be that the companies I was working with before like ran into something and put it there for me and I didn't realize it. That happens a lot. But yeah, Marcos's point about creating a flow is great. So, the flow could be, like he said, detecting that they are the contact role that you want and doing something to their contact record to indicate it. So moving the field onto the contact object, or it could be that you put them in a campaign. It can be any number of things, honestly. So yeah, be it's as creative as you can possibly be when it comes to how do you solve these things. You have to go outside the box sometimes. But that is an excellent question and definitely one I did not think to include, but thank you for asking it, even though we don't have a solution for you.
Yeah, and with that, just as it kind of came up throughout this conversation, really always keeping in mind those separate audiences where the default syncing between Salesforce and Pardot is focused on those contact roles. But what if you want to know a specific one? There might be some more custom routes to it. And then how do you find the ones that are just at the account that has an opportunity, which is, I think, the next thing you were going to talk about some.
Yeah, I've got a couple fun things that, I've had requests for over the years, and they're not necessarily built into Pardot, but you can still do them. So the most common one is, like I said, like I only have this one person named in a contact role in the opportunity, but I want to actually, like, if anybody at this account, if this account has an open opportunity, I don't want anybody from that account to be in my nurture programs. So you don't have an out-of-the-box way to do that in Pardot. Pardot, like I said, can only see the specific people named in the contact roles. But I've seen this in a couple of companies, and this, for example, is the way we do it at my company, but you might have a better way to do it. But it's a custom roll-up summary field. So you create this on the account level, and it just goes and looks at the opportunity, and it counts how many opportunities. And then down here in the, the table section, it's saying, so this thing at the top is saying count, which in like Excel terms means like, how many rows, and then count them. So numbers, sum them basically. But it's not exactly the same as sum. It's not like 1 + 3 = 4. It's like 1 and 1 row and 1 row = 2. Anyway, so, and then this bottom section of the criteria only include records that meet the certain criteria. This is where the stage field or any other field you might have on the opportunity that indicates, like, I only want to include these stages in this number. So I'm only including the ones that equal an open to me. And that's like prospecting, qualification, open, validation stage. My company has some weird stages. And so again, these stages might be different for your company, but just kind of get clarity on, these are the stages that are available, these equal open, these equal closed. And then create some summary fields to count how many open opportunities you have right now. You can also make similar fields that count, like, how many opportunities have there ever been of any stage? How many opportunities are in closed lost stage? How many opportunities are in closed won? You can create all those custom fields similar ways. So the thing that I want to call out is this is not as detailed as my previous pictures of, like, I created an opportunity and the opportunity is this type, and now I'm going to pull in everybody on this field. So if I jump back into my demo org, I didn't do all the best screenshots. I was kind of like overloaded on screenshots and I wanted to save you guys some. But so let's say that I have this opportunity related with prospects and I'm looking for Maybe I'm looking for them being created, less than 180 days ago. So I want to see any opportunity, open, closed, any stage that was created in the last 180 days. And then I want to see the account field for active opportunity is greater than 1. Well, this is still only going to pull the prospects who are named in the contact role on the opportunity. So this is not really the way you would go about creating these lists of show me accounts that have active opportunities that are under 180 days. You would need a secondary custom field on the account that says, and the opportunities are of this age, right? So then you would not be creating this row, you would be creating a second row saying prospect account field and picking a custom field from there to get that everybody at an account with an open opportunity and the opportunity is of this age. So while you can definitely do these roll-up summaries, I'm only showing you how to create this one field, and it puts a counter, it puts a number in the field. So you can say active opportunity is greater than 1, greater than 2, greater than 3. You can definitely pick and choose like your high value or high churn accounts and see what you have there. But to get into the drill downs of like the age of the opportunities, that becomes trickier. And that's where you'll definitely want to create some custom fields in the account level. And I couldn't figure out how to put that all into screenshots, so I kind of saved you guys that screenshot. Okay, so the second most common request is probably, okay, great. Now I know I can make dynamic lists of opportunities of certain ages, and the sales team wants me to follow up on those opportunities. They want me to name the opportunity in the email. That does not exist in Pardot. So Pardot can only read the fields. It can't mail merge them into an email. So you need to craft your emails in a very generic way that's like, hey, John, hoping to connect with you about that deal we have pending. Let me know how I can help. Doesn't name the opportunity, doesn't name the value, none of that stuff, but it's evergreen. There's nothing wrong with it. This request was so highly requested that they did run a beta on it, but that never got out of beta. So that to me says that it crashed and burned and didn't work like people wanted, or it took up too many resources or something like that. If you go to the link that I have here, and again, I'll distribute these, well, I'll click on it and show you. But the team says that with the new email builder, the Lightning email builder, with the introduction of the new Pardot email builder, we're digging deeper into this. So basically they're reevaluating it. With the new tool they're building, is this now possible? Now that they're moving email building into Salesforce, instead of it being in Pardot, which is a separate database, by moving the email building into Salesforce, is this now going to be possible? So they're reevaluating it. There's no ETA, but it's a good sign. So do go vote for this if you absolutely want this. And voting for it means that you'll get an email when there's any progress on that thing. So do go vote for that idea. Now, the way you get around this is similar to creating fields on the account level. Now we have, for example, a person named in a contact role on an opportunity. Now we get our Salesforce wizards to create a field that says, the name of the opportunity, and we copy that field onto the contact object. So now we have fields that live on the contact, which is at the prospect level, and I can mail merge prospect fields. So I can definitely create flows or something that say, hey, when somebody is named in a contact role on an opportunity, move these 15 fields onto custom fields on the contact object. Then I can sync those up with Pardot, and then I can send my emails as desired. Where it gets sticky is if somebody might have 3 or 4 open opportunities on the same contact. So Marcos earlier was saying, like, maybe at this account, they're the captain, and at this subsidiary, they're like the first lieutenant or something like that. Those are 2 different accounts, not the same account, but if at the same account, he's got 2 open deals at the same account, which one wins? And there's no good way to really solve that with a simple little, formula or something like that. And my other note here is that, like, most Salesforce admins are going to be like, oh, I can do that. I can use a formula field. Pardot doesn't always get along with formula fields. And the reason is because a formula field is just showing data. It's not actually changing data. And the reason that's important is it doesn't change data, which means it doesn't trigger any change to the last modified date on the contact object. So if something on the opportunity changes, that change is reflected in the formula field, but because it never changed the last modified date, Pardot doesn't know that there's new data there that it should pull down. So that's an important detail that you kind of get the hang of when you've been around Pardot for a while, that Pardot and Salesforce sync, but they're not always 100% in sync. And what it does is it doesn't pull down data field by field. It really looks at, here's the prospect record, last modified date, here's the contact or lead record, last modified date. And then Pardot has a hidden field that we can't see that says, here's the date these things last synced. So this third field over here that says last synced date, if the contact or the prospect have a different date than the last, that is newer than the last synced date, Pardot's like, oh, I need to sync these. Well, because a formula field never changes the last modified date on the lead or contact object, Pardot never gets to signal that it needs to sync. So when you hear Pardot people say formula fields and Pardot don't get along, Pardot can read them, but it needs something to trigger the last modified date in order for it to work. And the thing that triggers it is like, somebody filled out a form or somebody updated a field value. And that's why creating a process builder or a flow to actually physically update the data in a traditional field works, because changing that field value changes the last modified date on the lead or contact. That's my little rant about formulas. So you can do it. It's just, weigh your pros and cons. Is it worth all the effort and development to make it work? And what happens if shit goes wrong? So your sales team may be like, well, this one was a higher value opportunity. You should have sent them an email about this one, not this other one. You may not be able to control that. You may just have to, ask those questions of your Salesforce admin. Okay, if there's two open, can you evaluate which one is there and put the more valuable one there? Well, what happens if that opportunity gets edited and the value gets upped? It's kind of a sticky mess. So there are high hopes for like the new email builder being better because it can mail merge more directly, but we don't have any ETA on that. So don't, safe harbor, if you've seen all those safe harbor slides, don't make any buying decisions based on what Laura thinks. So here's the end. These are the links that I wanted to include. So this second one here on the left, the Campaign Influence Implementation Guide, that's a whole PDF you can download that walks you through, how to deploy it in your org. And then also like, here's the definitions. I put those definitions in little tiny writing on that slide. Here they are for you on this thing. You have to scroll down to the bottom of the page to see them, but they're there. And then here's the slide that shows you like, here's the opportunity fields, the default fields for opportunities and how they map in Pardot. So what you get out of the box are, these things. And so like status doesn't actually map to an opportunity field in Salesforce, but like stages do. And you'll see stuff like this where it's blank because technically back in the day, Pardot was its own CRM and didn't have to connect to any tool. So you could actually have Pardot only opportunities once upon a time. So there's some relics that are left over like this. So I wouldn't worry about this too much. But anyway, so those are the slides. And that's all I got, but I'm happy to take questions or anything anybody wants.
Laura, I want to ask you about the dashboards that you actually showed earlier in the slides.
Yep.
Are they also available for the growth edition, the base level of Pardot, or are they only, because B2B marketing analytics, I don't think applies to growth edition. You have to be on the one up from that.
Yes, and so that's not the one I wanted. So I think the answer is yes, because I think it's like, this is the minimum you get across all levels.
Okay.
And it's not a separate app. It is still like you have to create the campaign influence inside of Salesforce, and then you have to create custom report types inside of Salesforce. But it's not any sort of third-party external app like B2B MA is. So okay. I think they're included. I could be wrong, but I think they're included.
Thanks.
the ones you showed, I think, are just using the Lightning report builder.
Right.
You do have to enable campaign influence, and you also have to be on V2 connector, but you can do all that with growth. For a easier, you can build them just like any other reports once you have connected campaigns enabled and campaign influence and the models enabled, and then you can just do the reports yourself. Or
Yeah.
Plug First or Conte went ahead and threw we have a campaign influence starter pack that you can do, and it does this for you. You just have to install it. So
and so Marcos's link, I'll show that in a second. I know you had them. So this was released in 2017. So this is before even like the versions were updated to the like wording of growth and whatever. So this should work for everyone, even people on V1. You'll get better data on V2, and it like doesn't cost you a user license. So I always encourage you to upgrade to V2. Where is my chat? And I'll hit that link.
There is the B2B ones look different. So on that one, you can tell it's the sales app, not the B2B one. So all of this is just regular like dashboards. If the B2B one, what it does is it tries to do like in order for the B2B one to work too, you have to have campaign influence on. So essentially it's doing the same thing. It's just it has a determined out of the box dashboard you can check, and it just does it for you, versus this you have to build on your own. But it does also, like, the out of the box one won't look like this. It shows you different metrics. So regardless of which one you have, B2B or don't, this here has to be done by hand.
Yes, that's an excellent point. So when I say you have to like enable campaign influence, so there's two types of campaign influence. There's campaign influence 1.0 and customizable campaign influence. Customizable campaign influence is what you get as a Pardot customer. So you have to enable that in the back end and set up like your look back period if you want to, and only look at campaigns that match, generated by marketing, and don't use any sales generated campaigns. You can set up your criteria of like what goes into these charts. And then these charts here that you're seeing on screen, the first touch, last touch, even touch, these are the charts I showed at the beginning. You have to then go create custom report types in Salesforce in order to generate these things. So yeah, they're very, very DIY. But then Marcos's company, so Conte, has a whole labs division. We're really great people. And you can get, the campaign influence starter pack. So you can definitely, get a lot with this quick install.
It's free. You just have to follow the GitHub instructions. It took me like 2 tries to do it myself. I tried on a dev org first, which is what I would recommend. Of course, if you don't have that support in your org, you can always reach out to us, and we can engage and build on top of that, right? Like, we'll install that and then do anything else you need. But the instructions for anybody that has used GitHub, and
that's most developers. So if you have a Salesforce developer, most people have used GitHub before. It's basically the concept of like how you save a project that multiple people work on is done with GitHub.
If you click on that link for me, it actually takes you to the, never mind. It'll take you to a GitHub page, and the GitHub page literally has this is what you need to do. Yeah, like very specific. And so for anybody that has ever looked at that, it should be really easy. For people like myself that I knew the name, but had never done anything like that, definitely recommend do it on a dev org. And there's instructions for production versus dev org, right? So use the dev org ones, get comfortable with that. Usually in a dev org, you don't have any data. So you need to go in there quickly and, create a couple of campaigns and some opportunities, and just so you can see a couple of numbers. But once you get comfortable with that, in production is fairly easy. The hardest thing that I've noticed just from going through it is that if you're on a PC or if you're on a Mac, there's different like coding environments, right? That you can use to like essentially plug into GitHub and then pull the code that we have there for free. And so having, again, being new to this, each of those operating system has like a out of the box like environment, and it also outlines like what to type into your search bar in your computer. But I use it's called PowerShell on PCs. The one thing that you open, it looks like those old school like NASA movies where like people hard coded everything and it was just a black screen.
Yep.
So
mouse prompt.
right. So it could be a little bit intimidated. The one thing that I found the hardest was, again, no experience, was making sure that freaking little like blinker, like the mouse, was on the right spot. So then when you drop in the values, it actually like read it. And that is what took me a couple of tries to do. So just again, trying a dev org, like you're not doing anything wrong, you just need to try again. But for most devs, you know, you're looking at under an hour for sure, like maybe under 30 minutes if you know what you're doing, if this is not your first time in the rodeo, to install it. It took me roughly 35 minutes, having no experience doing this, to install it. And then, you know, a couple of extra minutes to actually go and create a couple of opportunities and things like that to match together. So all in all, like an hour to see from installation to like actually seeing some data in there. But, you know, once you do that in production, the theory is that it should take 20 to 30 minutes for somebody that knows what they're doing. So
Okay.
Very cool.
Thank you.
And then Marcos dropped this other link. So this one I've definitely heard about before. So we all know kind of the hardest thing in the world is like, okay, sales makes their opportunities, but actually getting them to add the people onto the contact role on the opportunity can be a pain in the ass sometimes. And people solve that in different ways. Some people, like my company with this Full Circle Insights tool that I have, it disables creating an opportunity from the account. You can only create an opportunity from the contact record. So that like forces the issue. So this allows you to deploy this tool in your Salesforce org, and people create opportunities, and this automatically matches people and puts them in contact roles on the opportunities. So this
one is not free.
This one is not free, I think, but it's not super expensive. I want to say it's
not
like
expensive.
$5 per user or something like that.
Yeah, so it's the alternative to this, right, that Salesforce provides is Einstein, right? There's an Einstein product in the Einstein product line that can do this with using some AI. So like, from my understanding is based on what you already have in your system, it tries to give you matches. So like recommendations, you should connect this. It doesn't do it for you. And if you don't have enough data, because there is a threshold, it has a default algorithm that it uses. And then after that, the more that you use it, the more it learns, quote unquote. I have not had a customer go that route because I don't know pricing, but I just hear it's expensive.
Yeah, Einstein generally is, but
I don't know what expensive looks like, right? That's relative to people. So usually the first line of defense is train your people, right? Second line of defense is something like paying for this or having your admin set up some rules to force the pain point, like Laura said. And then the third one, or for organizations that are, you know, a little bit more wealthy, or at least inclined to solve this problem, right? Einstein could be definitely an excellent tool for that, but you know, it just depends on where you're at.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then, so I'll throw out, like I said, my current company uses Full Circle Insights. And they have a whole suite of products. And the one that we have is, I believe it is campaign attribution. So the other ones you see here, like Matchmaker is the lead to contact account matching. We have this one, and it's very, very customized to our company. Like I wasn't on board with the company when they installed it, but I can see the documentation of like what went into the install. And it's very robust and it's customized to like how we have certain opportunity stages. And like we have a couple product lines, and right now this funnel measuring from full circle is only set up to count for one of those products. But I have a person guiding me on like, okay, we're going to create this and it's going to incorporate product A or product B in the same funnel, which will be fine for how we do things. But they have other solutions too. And I mean, pricing wise, I don't know if they say pricing, but it was surprisingly inexpensive for, yeah, they're not saying it. I don't know. And to me, so inexpensive is something like, I want to say it was under $25,000 for a year to get this campaign attribution reporting. It might have even been like $15,000 a year. So,
Okay.
I'm not paid by Full Circle. I'm just happy to be using it. All right.
Do you guys ever go through the App Exchange? Like, how do you sort out like what's worth using on the App Exchange? You just go by the ratings, or word on the street, or
Word on the
what's
street
deal?
usually. I mean, so we're plugged into the Pardot community. So Mike Cruiser, who works with Marcos, and also Adam. How do you say Adam's last name? Marcos or Estelle or something?
Estelle?
Yeah, they're really good people who know and can make recommendations. Of course, they work for Secate, so they're going to be biased. No worries there. They'll be the first ones to be upfront about that. And then, yeah, like, you know, you talk to someone like Steven and he's got favorite apps, and like Paul Hancock's got favorite apps, and, you know, you just kind of have run into them over the years. People have recommended different things over the years.
Okay.
I will say that like Lucy over at the Drip like has been doing more evaluations on apps that like target Pardot, and then just like general reporting. She made a couple of blog posts recently, and I checked some of those out. I haven't tried them in my dev org, but they definitely caught my eye, because, you know, sometimes you look at blog posts, top 10 apps you should be trying, and you're like, yeah, half of this doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
Hers were like, most of them were like, oh, okay, like I can see a use case for this. Let me go and download it or something like that. So
Yeah.
definitely giving her the plug, because she's done a couple of those apps that you can use.
Yeah, so this one, which just published the other day, was full of things that are made by Salesforce and other, you know, people that are, you know, working for Salesforce. And I have not looked into them. I've never heard of them before, but they looked pretty amazing. So this one, the campaign member management in particular, was like, oh my gosh, like this one looks great. So definitely check out, you know, the Drip. And, you know, people are on Twitter, and Salesforce Twitter is a pretty positive place to be. So if you've got questions, you know, we can tag in people, or, you know, kind of throw it out to like a hashtag Salesforce people. What do you do for blah, 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 blah. And yeah, people will be happy to chime in.
Okay, thank you.
Salesforce World likes its Twitter.
Yeah. There's
also an Ohana Slack. So we have our Pardot Slack. There's also an Ohana Slack that's Salesforce like around the world. So
yeah. Oh, I should join that. I don't think I'm in that group.
Yeah, just Google Ohana Slack and you'll find it.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, we can definitely call it a night. But thanks for joining us, everyone. Sorry, I didn't have answer to your question, Monica. I think it was Monica about contact rules.
Thanks for the session. It was great as usual.
Great. We haven't quite booked our next session. We are planning one for September, so just stay tuned to the alerts that go out, and we'll post it as soon as we nail down the speaker.
That's good.
All right. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
See you guys.